Happy Friday, everyone. Happy Friday. So you guys are getting a rare dose of Joe on Friday. Here we are. Didn't make the regular day this week. We had some conflicting schedules, so didn't do the Wednesday stream, but here we are on Friday. Wow, what a good feeling to stream on Friday. Man, Fridays are awesome. They have that Friday feeling. No other day has it. So I hope you guys had a good week. Hope you had a wonderful Friday. Boy, lots happened since we streamed a week and a half ago last Wednesday. Lots of stuff came out. The president has authorized Fannie and Freddie to buy $200 billion worth of mortgage-backed securities. That certainly is going to change the landscape of the mortgage interest rate market. And maybe even more so, or just as important, is the fact that things are ratcheting up between the Trump administration and Jerome Powell and the Fed. So the subpoenas went out. For those of you that don't know, Powell came out Sunday night and said, yep, we're getting subpoenaed by the federal government and the DOJ. And obviously things reacted from there. So tonight we're going to be talking about this face-off that's been brewing. We've talked about it a little bit before. We're going to talk about it a little bit more in depth and what the implications of just the subpoena even means. Of all the streams I've done, this one will probably be the most financial related and least like direct real estate related. But in this situation, the Fed, the administration, Jerome Powell, this probe has a lot to do with the real estate landscape moving forward in this year, especially since this is all taking place, in the first couple of weeks of January. So this could certainly have a huge impact on the rest of the year when it comes to the housing market. So we are going to get into that. But first, before we get into the DOJ story, we're going to talk about the ugliest house in America. We believe we have found the ugliest house in America thanks to HGTV. They have a show, and they did the very, very hard, diligent work of finding the ugliest house in America. So we're going to take a look at that. As always, guys, you know how this works. If you've been here before, welcome to the live stream. The comments are open, chat is open. The best part about live streaming, and really the reason that I do this, is being able to interact with you guys live in person, where we can talk about the article. If you guys have questions about real estate, maybe you guys are thinking about buying, selling, renting, maybe you're in the middle of buying or selling and you've got a question about something, or you just have a general question about real estate. Well, here's your opportunity to not ask ChatGPT so that it can give you some AI slop answer, or get lost down the rabbit hole that is Google, the Google machine, or Reddit. And you can just ask me right here and I can just give you the answer. Isn't that neat, right? I'm not even going to charge you anything for it. Hey, Cackleberry, how's it going, my friend? Hope everything's well. Thanks for hanging out in the stream. It's always good to see you. So let's get into it. Let's dig in. Let's dive in. And remember, guys, at any time you guys have any questions, comments, or you just want to sound off, pop them into the comments, pop it in the chat, and let's talk about it. So let's get started with the ugliest house in America. But you all can be the judge of that. But let's start with this. All right, so here it is. Boy, this thing is ugly. We're gonna try to make this as big as possible without ruining the page here. So there it is. Yikes! I mean, that is. Whew. There's a lot going on there. Let's take a look at it. Joe Bergatino and Ricky Gonzalez are said to have the ugliest house in the Midwest. Woo! At least according to HGTV and its Ugliest House in America series, on which the two Chicago homeowners were featured last week. The new reputation for the Victorian home, built in 1891, rivals its existing monikers. The Candyland House, or often the Barbie House. Those are nicknames neither Bergatino nor Gonzalez can date the origin of, but the reasoning is pretty clear. The home's candy-colored blue, pink, and seafoam green exterior, together with an interior that is just as colorful and also includes a touch of glitter. So for all of you who don't know, you got to have some glitter in the house. Let's scroll down here. You can see some more photos of this thing. Yikes. And see, here's the thing. So, you might have people that are like, oh no, but if the house is in good condition, or, it's, hey, Red, which color's the loud one? Pick it. I think you're referring to yellow, but holy heck, it's all pretty loud. You might think, well, if you get a good deal and the home's in good condition and all this stuff. I got news. So this is a house that's got siding. Now, if it's built in 1891, this is probably wood. This is probably not vinyl siding. This is probably wood siding. Now the siding looks like it's in pretty good shape, but it's impossible to tell from this photo. This photo is like just so far away, and it's not the highest quality. But on a wood sided home, to paint this property, it looks like it's like about 3 stories. It's pretty big. That is not going to be cheap. That's going to be an expensive paint job. So you would have to get it for a really, really good deal. Let's see how much they bought it for, though. All right. We didn't take offense, said Bergatino, when the two received inquiries from the network requesting they submit their home for the show. At first, the couple and their real estate agent thought it was all a scam. And $150,000, they can call me ugly if they need to, joked Gonzalez. Bergatino and Gonzalez chronicle renovating the property in their shared Instagram account. They were told that that's where the network spotted their abode. A camera crew was at the property for 12 hours, and the pair filmed with Retta for hours, the host of the show. It's very interesting. So they say that they are not to blame for the home's original vibrancy, although they've added their own colorful touches during the remodeling. After purchasing the property, the homeowners discovered more oddities beyond the painted surfaces, including baby shoes, a wedding dress hanging from the ceiling, tinfoil mermaids in the basement, and underwear stapled to the wall. All right, no, that gets a no from me. This house gets a no from me. Way too weird. Way too weird. Obviously, they want to keep it weird. So here's some of the interior shots. Now, I don't know if this is pre-renovation or post-renovation, but could you imagine walking into a house and paying whatever price they paid, and this is what you're getting? It's pretty crazy. I wish that they would have the address or a link to the full Zillow listing so that we could see it. But wow, just crazy. Just crazy. It's a 2,600 square foot home. Wow. So I don't know if that's the type of thing. I don't know if it's the ugliest house in America. It's certainly the ugliest house in the Midwest, but boy, that is ugly. But it's interesting is if this home did get a paint job and it was like restored, it could be phenomenal. Like it could be really cool. I mean, look at this. This is what a great example of like a Victorian kind of arts and crafts type home. Really, really neat. It just, good Lord, needs some help. Yeah, see, exactly. I feel like the outside has some potential. Like, I feel like you've got some good original, this kind of like the turret thing here is kind of neat, very Victorian, so that could be cool. I do think it just needs to be completely reworked. Our house had straw on the living room walls when we bought it. Like straw as in like horses hay, like hay for horses straw. And what do you mean it was on the living room walls? I'm gonna need some more clarification on that, Cackleberry, because I don't know what that. There was straw on the walls, like they used it as like they stapled straw all over. Like, was it for insulation, or was it like an aesthetics thing? That's interesting. It's not that ugly on the outside, aside from the colors. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's why I'm like, I took a second look at it and I was like, if you painted this thing like a normal color or a couple normal colors, could be pretty cool. I think could be pretty cool. So interesting, guys. Yes, it was a design choice of the previous owners. Okay, well, maybe they were into like the farm chic look, or maybe they were ranchers or people that had cattle and they just were like, hey, this is comfortable. I don't know. That's weird. I don't know what kind of design choice that is. Super old homes used to have horsehair in the insulation. Same with really old furniture. Yep, I have heard of that. I've heard of horsehair and other things. So, and I do know that Cackleberry lives in a cooler climate for Southern California. So maybe that was part of it. I don't know. Interesting. All right, guys. Well, we are going to switch gears and we're going to go over to this right here. All right. So the main event, Federal Reserve Chair Powell says the DOJ has subpoenaed the central bank, threatens criminal indictment. So this article is basically, in case you've been living under a rock and you didn't know what's been going on, this article is basically going to give us a lay of the land of what's been going on with the DOJ and Powell and kind of where we're at right now. Then what we're going to do, depending on what timing we're at and what people want to do. We can either go we'll cruise Zillow for some homes, or I do have another article that kind of talks about like the importance of the Fed remaining independent and what all this could mean for, the financial future of America and really the world at this point. So Federal Reserve Chair Powell says DOJ has subpoenaed central bank, threatens criminal indictment. Now, keep in mind, guys, right now, a subpoena is not an indictment. A subpoena is not an accusation of breaking a law. A subpoena is certainly nothing to do with being guilty. A subpoena is just a very formal document that says, you need to go see a judge right now because we want to talk to you. And that's where it's at. So, all right, let me make this a little bit bigger because this is awfully small on your screen. There we go. That's a little bit better for you guys. All right. Okay, so Washington, from the Associated Press. Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell said Sunday the Department of Justice has served the central bank with subpoenas and threatened it with a criminal indictment over his testimony this summer about the Fed's building renovation. So it's important to understand what even is the premise for the subpoena. And that is not that Jerome Powell has done anything wrong. It's not that he's broken a law, and it's not that he's fired. Basically, they are subpoenaing Jerome Powell because the Trump administration feels that he may have lied to Congress under oath regarding the renovation of the Fed building, which, as the chair, he's kind of supposed to oversee that. So this stems from not like Jerome Powell, committing fraud or being a bad boy, quote unquote. This is for basically him. The accusation here is that he wasn't truthful to Congress in questioning. So they want to bring him in. I didn't say it, Red. Red, I did not say it. You did, but thank you for saying it so that I don't have to. That's my short opinion is that this is talk about a wild goose hunt. And I think it's even, demonstrated furthermore when you very quickly had some high ranking Republicans go, I don't want any part of that. I don't want any part of that. I'm not voting for a new Fed chair, which this would obviously have to be an act of Congress to do this. So very interesting that there's already a lot of Republicans out there that are not a big fan of this move. A lot of financial people are not a big fan of this move. And I think that it was very interesting timing. I think President Trump it was a very interesting choice of timing. It's very interesting that on Friday, he directs Freddie and Fannie to buy $200 billion in mortgage-backed securities, which brought rates down by 0.25 to 0.35% almost instantaneously overnight. And then on Sunday, the subpoena news comes out. So I personally believe that the $200 billion of mortgage-backed securities purchase was to build some goodwill with not only the American people, but also the financial markets to basically say, okay, I know in 48 hours, I'm going to rock the freaking boat. So right now, let's prepare the boat to get rocked and let's shore things up a little bit. So I think that's what happened. I'm not a political guru. I'm not a strategist. I don't know, but I just all thought it was very, very interesting timing. And I don't disagree with you, Red. Hey, Angie, how's it going? You must have got the notification because it's Friday, not Wednesday. So hopefully that notification came through. Thanks for hanging out on the stream. Always good to see you. Hope you had a good week. All right, so let's dig in. The move represents an unprecedented escalation in President Donald Trump's battle with the Fed, an independent agency he has repeatedly attacked for not cutting its key interest rate as sharply as he prefers. Folks, that's the whole point of the Fed. This right here, this is the whole point of the Fed. The Fed does things without any thought to political recourse or reaction. The Fed operates based on trying to keep unemployment low and inflation low. That's what they want. The Fed wants low unemployment, low inflation. What monetary policy do we need to do or massage to get those things? And the whole point of the Fed is to be completely independent. Another thing that I want to mention while we're on the subject here is keep in mind that I had a thought. Oh, I remember now. I lost my train of thought. I'm getting older. Jerome Powell was selected by Donald Trump in his first term. So to me, it's just interesting that Donald Trump is so upset with Jerome Powell. And it's like, well, you picked him. So you got to take a little bit of responsibility for that. But people don't do that anymore, especially politicians. They especially don't take responsibility for anything. So, but that's the whole point of the Fed, to remain independent. And it's so they don't get bullied into cutting rates. It's so they don't get pressured into doing something because the Democrat wants it or a Republican wants it or the president wants it or whoever wants it. The Fed's whole thing is we do what's best for the American financial system. The renewed fight will likely rattle financial markets Monday and could over time escalate borrowing costs for mortgages and other loans. The subpoenas relate to Powell's testimony before the Senate Banking Committee in June, the Fed chair said, regarding the Fed's $2.5 billion renovation of 2 office buildings, a project that Trump has criticized as excessive, which is interesting because we have very old buildings and they're renovating them. To me, $2.5 billion does seem like a lot to renovate a building, but I'm not in construction. I don't know what they're doing. I don't know. Everything costs millions and billions of dollars, right? And also, too, this is the same president that just tore down a perfectly good wing of the White House to build a new ballroom. So if we're talking about like things that are excessive, but again, I am looking at things on a rational, even-keeled approach where rules are applied evenly, and that is not what happens in politics ever. So shouldn't be surprised by that. Powell on Sunday cast off what was up to this point been a restrained approach to Trump's criticisms and personal insults, which he has mostly ignored. And I have to say, Jerome Powell must have been the youngest kid in the family, or he must have been a middle child or something, because this guy, his poise to not be rattled or he's just unflappable. Even during the press conference where Trump is right there next to him, and Trump's like, "Oh, look, see, you're over budget. This is ridiculous." He was very calm. Powell was very calm and very straightforward and very succinct with his words. And quite honestly, Powell has always handled the situation with a lot of grace and poise, in my opinion. And that doesn't have anything to do with if I think Powell's correct or not in raising rates or lowering rates or his policy. I think overall he's got a very difficult job, and I think overall he's done pretty good since we actually never really hit a real recession coming out of COVID, which I think is pretty dang good. Did he make some mistakes? Yeah, but you have to realize he's making very big decisions. The whole Fed committee is making very big decisions, and it's hard to know what's right. So just a couple of interesting points. Instead, Powell issued a video statement in which he bluntly characterized the threat of criminal charges as simple pretext to undermine the Fed's independence when it comes to setting interest rates, which I completely agree with him on. The threat of criminal charges is a consequence of the Federal Reserve setting interest rates based on our best assessment of what will serve the public rather than following the preferences of the president, Powell said. Wow, look at that. This is about whether the Fed will be able to continue to set interest rates based on evidence and economic conditions, or whether instead monetary policy will be directed by political pressure or intimidation. I got news for you, folks. This right here, monetary policy being directed by political pressure, intimidation, that will be the beginning of the downfall of our great country. And we've seen it before. Just go back to the Roman Empire. And I remember this from 7th grade, Mr. Chauvin. What was the reasons for the fall of the Roman Empire? External pressures, internal forces, and one of them was bad monetary policy. And it had to do with a lot with inflation and bad lending practices. So if it could happen to the Romans, it could certainly happen to us. It's a sharp departure from the Fed's understated response to Trump this year. The central bank has attempted to placate the administration by dialing back some policies, such as efforts to consider the impact of climate change on the banking system that the administration clearly opposed. The renewed attacks on the Fed's independence and Powell's full-throated defense reignite what had happened, or what had appeared to be a dormant battle between Trump and the chair he appointed in 2017. The subpoenas will renew fears that the Fed's independence from day-to-day politics will be compromised, which could undermine global investors' confidence in U.S. Treasury securities. And it already has. Excuse me. We've seen that nations are already sort of not turning away from the dollar, but they're just not as excited about U.S. Treasuries and the U.S. dollar. And this is the reason why. This is absolutely the reason, is because of the doings of the current administration. And the Fed is a key reason into why the dollar is sort of the international currency of choice. It's the currency of trade. And the Fed is part of the reason that the global banking system is what it is. Now, obviously, you'll have those people out there that don't like the Fed, audit the Fed, Fed's no good, Fed's a bunch of cronies, Fed's a bunch of crooks. That's okay. I mean, people can have their opinions. But at the end of the day, the Federal Reserve has been leading the financial policy in this nation for, just about 100 years or so, 90 or 100 years. So, and we've had a pretty prosperous 90 years overall. So they're doing an okay job. We expect the dollar, bonds, and stocks to fall in Monday trading in a sell America trade similar to that in April last year at the peak of the tariff shock and earlier threat to Powell's position as Fed chair. Krishna Gua, an analyst at Evercore ISI, an investment bank, wrote in a note to clients. And we did see that. We did see some of that. We are stunned by this deeply disturbing development, which came out of the blue after a period in which tensions between Trump and the Fed seemed to be contained. And it is interesting to note that, because for a little while, things kind of got quiet with the Fed and Trump, they bickered back and forth. They had the thing on TV, when they were touring that thing, and then it kind of really quieted out. And for the last month and a half or 2 months, it's been pretty quiet. And then now we have the subpoenas, but we know that the Trump administration, Donald Trump, loves to kind of shoot up what we call test balloons. So, and we've seen him do this. We saw, and he does this a lot with housing, where he goes, we're exploring 50-year mortgages. And this is what he's doing. President Trump's he's looking at people and he's going, we're going to explore 50-year mortgages. And he's kind of waiting for feedback, right? He's waiting for the water cooler buzz. What does the public say? What does the financial sector say? What does the real estate sector say? And then, of course, everybody went, 50-year mortgages, that's ridiculous. It's just going to make people pay more interest. It basically locks people into renting forever. This is terrible. And then, of course, you have other financial people come out and go, 50-year mortgages would not be a good thing. It's really not going to help. And then all of a sudden, they're like, you know what? Nah, 50-year mortgages. Now that's kind of ridiculous. We're not doing that. And they did the same thing with portable mortgages too. Remember that? We talked about, we're going to make it so that you can take your mortgage with you and you can take your interest rate with you. Well, they can't do that. That's a violation of lending guidelines that we currently have. So you can't do that. So I wouldn't be surprised if this subpoena thing is again, a subpoena is not an accusation. It's not, they're not going to trial. It's just, you got to come in and you need to talk to a judge or Congress or someone. So now that he's done the subpoena, I do wonder if the Trump administration is waiting for the reaction of the markets, waiting for the reaction of the public, and waiting also for the reaction of, business leaders, corporate people, business people in the United States, because Trump is going to obviously listen very closely to that. So it'll just be interesting. I wouldn't be surprised if this thing goes away, because I think that the overwhelming majority of people in the financial world are going to say this is not good. The Fed has to remain independent, and any president that goes poking around in the Fed, it's not going to be a good thing, and people aren't going to support it. And I do believe that this could just kind of quietly go away. And honestly, do we really think that Jerome Powell had any reason to lie to Congress about a renovation of a building in which he's not even going to be associated with by May when his term is over? It just doesn't make sense to me. It just doesn't. Why would you lie? It just doesn't make sense. All right. In a brief interview with NBC News Sunday, Trump insisted he didn't know about the investigation into Powell. When asked if the investigation is intended to pressure Powell on race, Trump said, "No, I wouldn't even think of doing it that way." Bro, I mean, he just came out and made comments about how he hasn't lowered rates and he's pissed at Powell, too late Powell, old man Powell, all this stuff. I mean, this is the type of stuff like when you hear and see this, it's just like, what world are we living in where it's just so contradictory? It's crazy. And especially when it comes to this, because we know this. We've talked about this, guys. We've talked about this months ago about how Trump is bullying Powell. And then he talked about, oh, no, I had no idea about this. I didn't know about this. So you're just telling me that just coincidentally on Friday, you said, hey, Freddie, Franny, you need to buy $200 billion worth of mortgage-backed securities. We're going to lower the interest rate by a 0.25%. And then, oh, by the way, Sunday night, DOJ said they're subpoenaing. I don't know. I don't know. Seems suspicious to me. Powell's term as chair ends in May, and Trump administration officials have signaled that he could name a potential replacement this month. I do think that will happen. Trump has also sought to fire Fed Governor Lisa Cook, an unprecedented step, though she has sued to keep her job, and courts have ruled she can remain in her seat while the case plays out. The Supreme Court will hear arguments in that case January 21st. That's not going to happen. Cook is not going to get fired. That's not going to happen. And again, this is all a way to try to basically pack the Fed with people that will be more interest rate friendly. Because even if Trump puts one of his boys as the Fed chair, that's just one vote. Okay. The Fed chair does not control what happens with the federal funds rate. The board votes, and there's 12 people that have to vote, and they determine. However, the Fed chair, based on the words they say and the things that they convey to the public, can have an influence on interest rates just by the words and verbiage that are used. And there they are. This is Jay Powell. Right there he is. And this is Lisa Cook. So these are the two that are in the Trump's crosshairs for whatever reason. At the Senate Banking Committee hearing in June, Chairman Tim Scott, a Republican from South Carolina, said the Fed's building renovation included rooftop terraces, custom elevators that open into VIP dining rooms, white marble finishes, and even a private art collection. Powell disputed those details in his testimony, saying there's no new marble, there are no special elevators, and added that some of the controversial items are not in the current plan. In July, Russell Vought, director of the Office of Management and Budget, said in a letter to Powell that his testimony about changes to the building plans raises serious questions about the project's compliance with previous plans approved by a planning commission. I mean, I don't know. It just doesn't even make sense to me. Rooftop terraces. Okay. What else would you put on a roof? I mean, if you got a roof, you might as well make it a nice outdoor space. And if it's in a city like Washington, D.C., where land it pulls a premium. So it's not like you can have some big open space. So I don't think by necessary, I mean, the building already has a rooftop. It's not like it's a convertible building and you got to build a rooftop. It's going to add to the cost. Custom elevators that open to VIP dining room. Okay. I don't know. But I don't know. It just seems weird. Private art collection. And it doesn't. Why does the Fed need that? Why would the Fed do that? It just doesn't make sense to me. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they're pulling the wool over my eyes. I don't freaking know. Innovative. What's going on, buddy? Hope you're doing well, Innovative. Hope you had a good week. Happy Friday. Every fix this administration has suggested for complicated economic problems has been the equivalent of turning up the volume in the car so you can't hear the weird noise the engine is making. Yeah, that's a great analogy. It's just like, what's the problem? Oh, you hear that? No, we don't hear that anymore. Oh, do you hear that? No, we really don't hear it. So, that is well said, Innovative. Well said. Powell disputed those details. Oh, we went over that. Okay. Still, later that month, Trump visited the building site and, while standing next to Powell, overstated the cost of the renovation. Later that day, Trump, speaking to reporters, downplayed any concerns with the renovation. He said they have to get it done, and added, look, there's always Monday morning quarterbacks. I don't know. I don't want to be that. I want to help them get it finished. A very Trump thing to do, right? It's a very Trump thing to tweet and to bark and all this stuff. And then when you actually hold his feet to the fire, he's like, oh, no, you got me all wrong. That's all this stuff, right? So, it's just interesting. On one hand, he says, oh, all this is crazy and you're over budget. And the next thing goes, no, I don't want to act like I know what's right. I want to help them. It just doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. When asked if it was when asked if it was a firing offense, Trump said, "I don't want to put that in this category." Again, non-committal, like a politician. The Justice Department, in a statement Sunday, said it can't comment on any particular case, but added that Attorney General Pam Bondi has instructed her U.S. attorneys to prioritize investigating any abuse of taxpayer dollars. Okay. No AP, no thank you. Timothy Lauer, a spokesperson for the U.S. Attorney Jeanine Pirro's office, which didn't Jeanine Pirro, wasn't she a TV judge? Does anybody know? I feel like she was like a Judge Judy. Maybe I'm thinking of somebody different. But although it kind of makes sense for this administration, doesn't it? Let's find out. Let's look together. Let's look. Sorry, guys. It's going to be a fun little tangent here. We're going to do this. All right. Let's do this. A TV judge? Justice with Judge Jeannie. Yes. She's a freaking TV judge. Oh, my God. That's hilarious. From 2011 to 2022. Oh, my gosh. That is hilarious to me. That's funny. Makes a lot of sense. She fits in well then. She fits in well with the administration, I got to say. So it's like the whole cabinet is just like reality TV stars between Trump and Judge Jeannie. Wow. I wonder if she still goes by Judge Jeannie. Interesting. All right, let's get back to it. Oh, I ended my screen share. There we go. There we go. There's Jay Powell. With the subpoenas, Powell becomes the latest perceived adversary of the president to face a criminal investigation by the Trump administration's Justice Department. Trump himself has urged prosecutions of his political opponents, obliterating institutional guardrails for a Justice Department that for generations has taken care to make investigative and prosecutorial decisions independent of the White House. Just like the DOJ, just like the Fed is supposed to be kind of independent from the government, the DOJ, it is a federal entity and it is part of the federal government, but it's, you know, supposed to try to be independent, right? Exactly, Red. You can't. You just can't do it. You just can't. I'm almost thinking like there needs to be like a reality spinoff of the Trump administration, like it's like The Office, but like just call it like the administration, and it's just all caricatures of Trump and his people, and Trump is the Michael Scott of the show, and you just listen to his harebrained ideas and laugh and hope that The Office, or in this case, the nation, doesn't just go into the toilet. But yeah, interesting. You can't write it. Okay. The potential indictment has already drawn concern from one Republican senator who said he'll oppose any future nominee to the central bank, including any replacement for Powell, until this legal matter is fully resolved. So there you go. You already have one person, one Republican who's like, not even touching this with a 10-foot pole until we have evidence of a conviction, which is likely not going to happen. If there were any remaining doubt whether advisors within the Trump administration are actively pushing to end the independence of the Federal Reserve, there should now be none, said North Carolina Senator Tom Tillis, who sits on the Banking Committee, which oversees Fed nominations. It is now the independence and credibility of the Department of Justice that are in question. So, yikes. I mean, so now we have, you know, the Fed is in question, the DOJ is in question, and how independent are these places, and are they doing the right thing or not? I don't know. It's hard to know. All right, guys. So I'm going to give chat a choice. So if you guys are in chat right now, you get a choice. We can either go to another article, which basically kind of talks about, it's going to overlap a little bit of this, but it's also, but it's more about like how it's threatening the independence of the Fed and what that can mean. So I do have a Yahoo Finance article about that. Or if somebody in chat wants to explore a neighborhood or market on Zillow and y'all want to maybe look at properties or look at some comps, something like that, we can do that too. So I am going to plug my website really quickly because it's my show and I get to do that. And while I'm plugging my website, maybe y'all a minute and somebody chime in and let me know what you guys want to do. If nobody answers, then I'm just going to flip a coin and we'll figure out what we're going to do. So while you guys think, here, look at this instead. So think and look. So this is workwithjoerealtor.com. That's me. I'm Joe Realtor. Hi. Hello. I can help you buy and sell houses in case you didn't know. And I have the link in chat. Okay, Innovative says article. He was the first to chime in. We're going article. Thank you, Innovative, for making a decision. Appreciate that. So if you are looking for a real estate agent, let's say you're thinking about buying or selling a property, and you know what, you don't have a good trusted agent. Last thing you should do is like just Google real estate agent in my area. God knows who you're going to get connected with. You're going to probably get connected with whoever paid the most to show up on Google or whoever paid the most to show up on Zillow or Redfin. And that is not always the best thing because sometimes you can end up with some real idiots out there. So if you need an agent and you want what we call a 20% agent, that's an agent that's in the top 20%. Remember, 80% of agents, they don't got it going on. They don't know their left hand from their right hand. There's a lot of real estate agents out there that should not be real estate agents. So you want one of the 20% that should be an agent that's a true professional that knows what they're doing. So let me help you find one of them. No cost to you, no obligation. Go to the website. You can click on any one of these buttons and it'll take you to a little form. You can fill it out. And if you need an agent in Arizona, I got you. If you need an agent in Washington State, I got you. If you need an agent in Massachusetts, I got you. If you need an agent anywhere in the United States, I got you. So if you are looking for some help, you can go to my website and I'll get you connected with a great agent. Or if you're local and you're in the Southern California area, Riverside County, Orange County, LA County, or San Bernardino County, guess what? Good news. You can work directly with me. Isn't that so fun? Aren't you so excited about that? Yay. Yay. Where's my... All right, guys. So check that out if you need a good agent. All right. So Innovative said he wants to read the second article. So we're going to do that. And I actually think that this is probably the correct decision. So we're going to share this tab instead. We're going to wait from this weird talking head lady. There we go. There we go. All right. All right. So former officials say DOJ probe threatens Fed independence has no place in the United States. Whoa. Guys. You guys know this. I read a lot of stuff to you guys. You know this because I do it a lot. I don't know what this word is. Let's learn something new today. Well, I don't have a definition. It's a diaper brand. I thought it would come in. Oh, coterie, a small group of people with shared interest. Okay. Coterie. Interesting. Okay. A coterie of former Federal Reserve chairs, Treasury secretaries, and prominent economists spoke out Monday in support of Fed Chair Jerome Powell and expressed alarm over the Justice Department's threat of a criminal prosecution at the central bank. Guys, remember how I said Trump likes to throw up these test balloons, right? This is what I mean. So he announced, this came out on Sunday, and the very next day, this was on Monday, this came out, and already a group of former officials are like, nope, this isn't good. And not that Trump like particularly cares about what other people think, but I do believe that if there is an overwhelming amount of people, it gets to a critical mass and he's going to get pressure from this group and then pressure from this group and then pressure from that group. And he gets to the point where you're just going to get so many pressures from so many groups that you can't execute what you wanted to do. And so this could be kind of, the beginning to that. So let's see what we got. Innovative. I missed this one. Also, real estate is a great inflation hedge. We all know Trump is gonna print money. Yeah, he needs to print money. He needs a low dollar. That's part of the holy trinity of what he's trying to do. Low energy, low dollar. It's part of what he needs to do to accomplish his goal. The reported criminal inquiry into Federal Reserve Chair Jay Powell is an unprecedented attempt to use prosecutorial attacks to undermine the Fed's independence, said the statement signed by former Fed chairs Janet Yellen, Ben Bernanke, and Alan Greenspan, as well as 4 past Treasury secretaries who have served under both Republicans and Democrats. All right, guys. So all 3 names here, these are 3 big-time names. Big-time names. Janet Yellen, Ben Bernanke, and Alan Greenspan. I mean, Alan Greenspan is like the father of the American economy. And, Janet, Ben, and Alan, they all had pros and cons. They all made some good decisions. They all made some bad decisions, like most people when you're faced with a big decision, right? But for all three of them to agree, and again, they, all served under both Republican and Democrat presidents, and all three of these people are nonpartisan, a part of an independent committee. All three people took an oath to care about the U.S. financial health over politics. So when all three of these people go, this is no bueno, I tend to agree. I do tend to agree. Before this admin, we never heard of the Federal Reserve very much. You're absolutely right. When was the last time you heard about Jerome Powell and, interest rates and this and push that and corruption? You're exactly right. The Fed, most people didn't even know what the Fed was, what it did. It was just every once in a while, when they did cut interest rates, the Fed cut interest rates. Oh, great. My credit card interest is going to go down a little bit, but that's all that really was. And now it's like every freaking day we hear about the Fed. Holy heck. This is how monetary policy is made in emerging markets with weak institutions, with highly negative consequences for inflation and the functioning of their economies more broadly, it continued. It has no place in the United States, whose greatest strength is the rule of law, which is at the foundation of our economic success. Yellen told CNBC on Monday that the investigation comprises the central bank's compromises the central bank's independence, and said she thinks financial markets should be more concerned about a situation she called extremely chilling. Markets were responding in early trading Monday, with stocks wavering on the news. The dollar, treasuries, and U.S. equities features slid, though the declines were small. Worst of all worlds for Trump. Wilmer Stith, senior bond portfolio manager for Wilmington Trust, warned that bond yields could move higher, raising borrowing costs for consumers, especially for mortgages, and counteracting any relief from Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac's $200 billion purchase of mortgage bonds. That is why I think, see how it said it's going to counteract any relief. So we have interest rates that were here. Trump says, hey, guess what? Fannie and Freddie buy $200 billion worth of mortgage-backed securities, so interest rates go here. Right? The reaction is like, oh, this is good. And then we go, oh, but the Fed's under investigation. So it's like, oh, back up here. But it evened out here. So again, I completely think that the MBS purchase was strategic and was part of a plan to help positively offset interest rates so that when this news got released that supposedly Trump had no idea about, that it wouldn't be as big of a negative impact. Because if we didn't have those $200 billion of mortgage-backed securities purchased, if that didn't happen, and then Monday this news breaks that Jerome Powell has been subpoenaed, interest rates probably would have gone up 0.25%, and financial markets would have not been doing very good. President Trump is shooting himself in the foot because he's trying to bring down mortgage rates, trying to allow first-time home buyers to afford a house, said Stith. Stith warned that yields are likely to move higher as concerns grow about the central bank independence and the Fed's willingness to bring down inflation as investors demand compensation for the erosion of principal. Oh, the infamous scene. This is them live on TV when Trump's like, see, look, here, you're over budget. And then Powell takes the paper and goes, oh, Trump, you're looking at the wrong thing. That's not even the right project. Oh, jeez. Oh, man. Others warned that Trump's willingness to use criminal subpoenas to pressure the Fed will make it even harder for the next Fed chair to convince markets and the public of central bank independence, which could in turn make it harder to control inflation expectations, which makes sense, right? Like you're like the whole, public is suspect now. And you go, oh, don't worry, we're going to put a new person in charge. But don't worry, we're going to put the new person in charge. It's going to be fully independent. And you're like, well, is it fully independent? Because you just kicked that person out. Now you just put this person in charge. It seems like it's actually very dependent upon you. So thus it would create a lack of goodwill in the financial world. Krishna Gua, head of the, we talked about this. Story continues. Gu said he thinks the dynamics will increase the likelihood that Powell will remain at the Fed as governor, denying the new chair a natural majority and threatening to derail what we believe was a hope and expectation that the old committee could meet the new chair halfway. The new development also scales back the prospect for rate cuts, Trump's main goal. Yeah. This action promises the worst of all worlds for Trump and the markets: higher inflation risk and monetary policy uncertainty, but reduced likelihood of faster cuts, with the old FOMC, which is basically the Federal Open Market Committee, more likely to block or slow the new chair from June. So basically he's saying not only are you going to create issues with trust, but you're going to slow down the process of cutting interest rates, because then the Fed is going to put the brakes on things because their guy is being removed early. So probably not the best decision. Esther George, a former head of the Kansas City Fed, said she is alarmed by the level of intimidation and pressure aimed at the Federal Reserve. Not only do these tactics undermine the Fed's ability to achieve its congressional mandates, but they ultimately undermine confidence in the United States, she said. And I fully, wholeheartedly, completely agree with her. Implications for internal Fed moves. The latest threat could also make it less likely that Trump's nominee to be the next Fed chair, expected to be either Trump advisor Kevin Hassett, former Fed Governor Kevin Warsh, or current Fed Governor Christopher Waller, would be confirmed by the Senate in time to take over when Powell's current term ends in early May. Republican Senator Tom Tillis, we heard from him, who sits on the Senate Banking Committee, has already warned that he will oppose the confirmation of any nominee for the Fed, including the upcoming Fed chair vacancy, until this legal matter is resolved. Another Republican, Senator Lisa Murkowski of Alaska, followed Monday with her own statement of support for Tillis and alarm over the investigation. So again, even some Republican leaders are like, this ain't good. We don't like this. This is not a good look. And it's not. Capital Economics North America chief economist Paul Ashworth said that if a confirmation process stalls out and Trump doesn't have a replacement in place in time, the Fed board would presumably vote to keep Powell as chair pro tempore. So basically, like, you haven't made a decision. We don't know. Well, guess what? He's hanging on. And wouldn't that be hilarious if Powell ends up staying longer because of Trump's inability to make things happen? That would be quite funny. Ashworth also said he thinks that if the Justice Department moves to prosecute, it's more likely that Powell would remain on the Fed board even after his term as chair ends. His term as board member doesn't end until 2028. So he wouldn't be chair, but he'd still be a member of the board for another 2 years or so. That would restrict Trump's scope to stack the board with his own appointees, which, as we've said, is the goal. Ashworth said, even if the Supreme Court supported Trump's attempt to fire Lisa Cook for mortgage fraud, Trump would still only have his new chair and one other on his side, probably Stephen Murin. Yikes. I bet no one wants Jerome Powell's job. No, absolutely not. No. Well, I don't know. I mean, maybe one of Trump's yes men, but I don't know. And then you always wonder, like, what deals are made behind closed doors where Trump's like, hey, I'm going to make you the Fed chair and you're going to do what I say. And in 6 months, if everybody hates you and I have to fire you, well, I'm going to make you the chief financial officer of whatever. You know, it's like that whole public sector to private sector I don't know. So I'm assuming there's probably some incentives for whoever Trump wants to lead that, but who knows? But one thing's for sure, I wouldn't want Jerome's job. You couldn't pay me enough to have Jerome's job. No, thank you. So it'll be really, really interesting to see how this, shakes out. Obviously it is going to make a big impact into the real estate landscape of the United States. Obviously the financial market, there's a big impact there. And right when we thought we might get some stability in 2026 when it comes to interest rates, it's one of the big things in the real estate community where we're looking at it through a lens of inventory is going up. We have more inventory, or we're expecting to have more inventory this year than at any other time in the past 6 years, which is great all the way around. And when I say we're going to have more inventory, people think, oh, Joe, you just called the housing crash. No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying that. We have been so low on inventory for so long. We need an increase. We need an increase in inventory. It's going to help stabilize pricing a little bit. It's going to make it a little bit more friendly on buyers. And it also helps sellers too, because as more inventory comes up, those sellers now have more options if they want to downsize, upsize, relocate, whatever. So it makes it easier for them to sell their home and keeps that thing going. Introducing our next Fed chair, Mr. Kid Rock. I can see it in my head right now. I could see like coming on stage, pyrotechnics going off, Kid Rock coming out and is playing one of his songs in the background. You hear, Kid Rock. Yeah, I can see it right now. Oh, God, that's hilarious, innovative. I got to get to Texas so we can hang out. That's hilarious. Oh, man. I don't know where I was. That got me off my. Right. That's what real estate in 2026. So we're hoping that we're going to have more inventory than we've had in the. Stop it. Okay. No, it's not far-fetched, Red. That's the crazy part, Red. It's not far-fetched. All the stuff that we talked about. The office version of the administration, Kid Rock being the Fed chair, like Jerome Powell getting fired. These are all things that could certainly happen. It's crazy. Oh, shoot. Okay. So in 2026, we were really, really hoping like, hey, we're going to get some more inventory. Interest rates are going to be stable. This could be the best, market, the best makeup, the best scenario for real estate since 2020, which would be really, really helpful. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. And then, of course, now we get all of this. I personally am really hoping that all this Fed stuff goes away. It's not good. It's not good. This whole Fed stuff, challenging the independence of the Fed, trying to kind of publicly ridicule and strong arm the Fed and Jerome Powell. It's not a good look for America. It's not a good look for the United States. It's not a good look for our financial system, and it's not going to help the real estate market. And by the way, again, guys, the real estate market is like 30% of the GDP of the entire nation. So real estate is really important to all of us, even if you don't think it, because chances are if you have a retirement account, you're invested in real estate in one way or another. So we all are kind of in on it. And if you pay rent, you're interested in real estate. And if you pay mortgage, you're interested in real estate. So we all kind of have a vested interest. All right, guys, we're on 53 minutes. Little bit of a shorter stream today, but I have to get back to work. I have Claremont Cars and Coffee. In fact, let's do some promoting. If you guys are local to the Southern California area, there's a wonderful, wonderful, amazing event tomorrow. It's an event that I put on. It's called Claremont Cars and Coffee. There it is right there. So if you're a coffee person or a car person, or you just want to come out and enjoy a beautiful morning, we'll be out here in Claremont at Granite Creek Community Church. It's free. Everyone's invited. So I have to go prep for this. I have to go pull this event off tomorrow. I got a lot of stuff I still need to get done. I got to wash a car and load up the car with all the stuff. So we're going to get out and do that. Guys, thank you very, very much for giving me some of your very valuable time, especially on a Friday evening. I know y'all could probably be doing some amazing things out in the club, getting crazy with your friends, and instead you decide to hang out here with me. Thank you so much for that. I really do appreciate you giving me some of your very valuable time. As always, right down here, you're going to see that thumbs up button. Please go ahead, hit that like button on the way out. If you're not subscribed, please do subscribe. Although I think I got all my regulars in here tonight. So y'all are probably already subscribed. And I know you guys already hit that like button because you know what to do. So appreciate you guys for doing that. We'll be back next Wednesday at our regular time on our regular day, covering whatever crazy stuff is going on in the real estate world again. So I'll be back here, and I hope to see you here too. I hope to see you specifically here. So hope you guys have a great weekend. Hope you enjoy the show. Have a wonderful Friday night. I'll see y'all next time. Bye-bye.